Welcome to the Art and Soul Podcast. I'm Alicia, your fellow dreamer and guide on this path of healing. This podcast is our sanctuary, a place where artists, creatives, and sensitive souls like you and me can come to recharge and find inspiration. You'll find tips and tools to help you on your awakening journey. Let's dive deep and discover the magic inside of us. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another week. I wanted to talk about manifestation this week because I have had so many clients this week ask me about manifestation that I thought, goodness, this has got to be going on in the collective. This has got to be going on in everyone's sort of mind and view right now. I actually wrote out all of my thoughts about manifestation and was preparing to do a podcast on it. And then as I was doing it, I was realizing that it's almost impossible to even breach the subject of manifestation without talking about the subconscious mind first. And I know in the episode about meditation, we talked about the subconscious a little bit, but I have never really given you a full breakdown on the subconscious mind and why it's so important. So I figured we'd save the manifestation podcast for another time when we really understand the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the power of our mind, because then we can go into how to manifest, what is manifesting, what is not manifesting, and all of that stuff. Because right now I feel like it's such a hot phrase and it's in every other video I get on TikTok or Instagram. So I think it's just buzzing in the collective and it needs to be talked about. And I think it needs to be talked about in a different way than you typically see it. But first, we have to know the mind. We have to understand the mind. The mind is the key to every single thing in terms of ascension, awakening, in terms of healing. I mean, the mind is so important and you cannot do anything without it. You can't even think about manifesting anything until you understand how the mind works. So that being said, we are talking about the subconscious mind specifically, and I'll get into what the difference is between the conscious and the subconscious and even the superconscious and what all of that has to do with you and your change and your growth. I know I've told you before that the subconscious mind, reprogramming the subconscious mind, all of that was a huge part of my own healing journey. And I truly don't think I would be where I am today without having done so much of the subconscious reprogramming work that I did. If you didn't catch it in one of the previous episodes, I was really operating from a space of fear that I would be misunderstood. It was my greatest fear that the things I did would be misinterpreted, or the things I said would be misinterpreted in some way, or that people couldn't understand me because I had so many different facets and parts to my personality, and I never knew which part to present at different times. And there were even times where I felt like I would present one part of my personality to one group of people, and I was lying because I wasn't presenting the whole me, and I didn't know how to present the whole me at one time, and it just felt very overwhelming for much of my life. And the fear behind all of that was that people would not know that my intentions were good, that I truly loved them, and it developed in me this need to be a perfectionist, to be a people pleaser, all of these things that were robbing me of my authenticity, were robbing me of my true voice. And it wasn't until I started meditating and really looking at the root of some of this stuff that I realized it was because I had this fear of being misunderstood. And on the surface, it didn't look like that. It didn't even look like fear. It looked like insecurity. It looked like lack of confidence. It looked like people pleasing. It looked like saying yes when I meant no. But underneath all of it, it was this deep, deep fear. And that's how the subconscious is. It holds these deep beliefs and these deep fears and these parts of us that are programmed into us from a young age that aren't even necessarily our own thoughts or beliefs. And all of those things make up our life. The people that I've seen change their subconscious mind, change their programming, change their beliefs, are the people that I have seen heal the fastest. Out of all of my friends, all of my clients, the people who work with their mind are the ones who really end up in the most beautiful, most exciting, best places and the most aligned places for them. Because what's on top of that and what's in all of this programming is stuff that's not really us. It's stuff that we have taken on as our own and boxes that we have built around ourselves, but it's not really us deep down. And so when you start to remove all the layers of that, the change becomes really rapid. And it's cool because I know this for a fact from my own experience, but I have also watched countless other people do it. Many of my clients, family members, friends, I've shared this information with them and then they've also done it and it works. I'm telling you, it works. So if you do nothing else in your healing journey, reprogramming your mind and meditating, working with the mind will get you so far. So the subconscious is a psychological term that means below or beyond the conscious mind. This means that this is the part of our mind that holds all of this hidden behavior and hidden beliefs and habits and all of this stuff. It's not visible to us. So we don't know it's there unless we go searching and go into it and find out what's there. But even though we don't know it's there, it impacts everything we do, every single thing. How we know that it's there is that it affects our habits, it affects our desires, it affects our fears, our attachments to certain things or ideas. It affects our perspective of the world, which ultimately is one of the reasons that there can be so much tension in the world because people have different belief systems, but underneath that, they have different programming. And that programming comes out in their behavior. And so if you have one person with type A programming and another person with type B programming, and they're talking to each other and they're trying to interact together, it's not going to make sense to the other person because it's different programming. And the best way to talk about this programming, I think, or the best way to understand it is to think of it like a computer. Your subconscious mind is the computer, and the operating system is your programming. So we just have to go in and update your operating system. That's what we're doing here. And one of the reasons I like to think of it like a computer is because the subconscious mind is really storing all of this information that we've received over our lifetime. And this is how we're programmed. We receive information through our senses, so everything we've ever tasted, touched, smelled, seen, heard, all of that stuff is in our subconscious mind. And every day, it's adjusting the programming. When we're younger, between the ages of 0 and 7, this is when the programming part of it is the strongest. So if you had a really difficult childhood or you had some kind of a disruptive childhood in some way, whether that was because of your family life, the people who took care of you, the people that you were around, or maybe you lived in severe poverty, or maybe you had some big traumatic event like someone in your family died at a young age, or your house burned down, or some big, massive event between the ages of 0 and 7 especially, your subconscious is going to be programmed around those events and activities because you were taking in so much information like a sponge. Before age 7, our subconscious programming is not really set yet, and we're learning the programming based on our environment and the people around us. So depending on how your parents or your caretakers acted and how they regulated their own nervous system and how they treated you and how they treated each other, all of that has programmed you to be the person you are today. And it's part of the reason why we take on traits and even habits of our parents or the people that raised us. Sometimes this is not even genetics. Sometimes this is literally because our brain was programmed by those people. And so the programs that are running in the background all the time are telling us to do these certain things. And these are the things that influence our character. These are the things that influence our personality. And then once we get to age 7, our personality becomes a bit more defined and we start to make a few more conscious choices and allow certain beliefs to cross over into our subconscious. Before that, we don't really have a choice of whether or not we're going to allow certain things to enter the subconscious. But then as we become more conscious individuals, we mature a little bit and we have a little bit more of our defined personality, we start to decide what we'll accept as our own truth. But the crazy part about all of that is that we make those decisions and we decide based on our personality, which is already based on those first 7 years. So those first 7 years hold a lot of weight for all of us and for the way that we turn out. So I just want to say here that if you did have a really rough childhood or something was amiss in your childhood, all is not lost. There's hope for you. The way that it has impacted your life maybe has been really hard and maybe has been really challenging, but you can change that. It is possible. No matter what has happened to you, no matter how you've been programmed, no matter what that program is that's running in the back of your mind, it is possible for you to change it. You have that power, and I'm going to show you how to do it. The subconscious also is the part of your brain that controls all of the functions in your body that you don't think about. So your heart beating, your breathing, your digestion, your cells like taking in nutrients and oxygen and the function of your cells, all of that stuff is programmed within the subconscious mind. So the body just does it. It's also things like walking, driving, riding a bike, things that are learned patterns or skills. This is why learning a skill is hard until you've mastered it, because you're implementing a new program into the subconscious. And until it learns that new program, your brain is creating new pathways in order to learn, in order to achieve that thing and make it a skill and make it part of your process. And then there's a part of the subconscious that sometimes is referred to as the shadow part. And this part of the subconscious holds all of the unresolved aspects of our personality. And this is the part that is accessible in dreams, in hypnosis, in visualization, meditation. It's why when you dream, a lot of times people who work with dreams will talk about how it's your subconscious saying this or resolving this energy or this problem in your life. We work that stuff out in our subconscious mind while we're sleeping, and all of that sits back there. And then as soon as we work it out, it becomes part of the programming and becomes part of our personality. So when you're dreaming about something, it's actually a really imperative time to start tapping into that energy and beginning to alter some of that if it's not what you want. If you're dreaming about something and it seems like you're worried about this or that, that's when you know you need to get into meditation and start to reprogram and start to build a different structure around that idea or that thought. So ultimately, there are 3 levels of the mind. There's the conscious, the subconscious, and then something called the superconscious. So the conscious is what defines all of your thoughts and actions that are within your awareness. And this idea of consciousness and consciousness rising, especially in this time on Earth right now, you'll hear a lot of that lingo within the awakening community or the spiritual community that consciousness on Earth is rising. And what that means is just that people are becoming aware of their unconscious actions. People are starting to wake up to all of their programming. We are starting to realize that we haven't been living in the present moment and start to make choices based out of our conscious mind rather than our subconscious mind. Because right now, our subconscious mind is 95% of our brain activity. And truly, this blew my mind when I first heard this. This means that 95% of what you do is all subconscious. Now, that is including your heartbeat, digestion, all that stuff. But our mind is constantly running in circles, and we think that we're aware of so much that is happening. But really, our conscious mind kind of has a loop that just runs, and there's like 10 things in there that are running, and we're thinking about them, and we're overthinking about them, and we're worried about all of the what ifs and that kind of stuff. But all of that is based on this programming, and there's very little time when we're actually just conscious. 5%, really less than 5% of the time. So this means that most of your decisions, most of your actions, your emotional reactions, your behaviors, all of that is operating out of that subconscious mind. So this is why it's so hard to change a pattern or a habit, because it is not based on your consciousness. It's based on your programming. And that's just the way that our brains function. So in order to change all of that, you actually have to get into the subconscious. Now, the superconscious is this idea that we all collectively are of one mind. It's why trends happen and fads happen, and why on one side of the country and the other side of the country, the same like lingo and catchphrases are being used. Now, our internet has expanded that exponentially and also has increased the speed of that and the way that trends spread and all of that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of times you'll find that if you're learning about something or you've been listening to someone and they're talking a lot about one concept, or you're reading a book and it's a new concept to you, you'll start realizing there are so many people also talking about that concept. And part of that is your brain just recognizing the thing that it knows. So that's one element of that. But another part of that is that it's in the collective consciousness. It's in the group mind that these things are being learned. We're being awakened to the same things at the same time. And part of that is within the consciousness. The other thing about the superconscious is that it defines all of these past events and memories, even though they might be hard to remember or they're not necessarily super accessible to us. But it kind of functions like the cloud, where it holds all of the past in the energy. And some people also relate this part to that God energy, that God being. So sometimes when you hear people refer to the superconscious, they're also referring to that being or that source energy. So when we talk about changing the subconscious mind, reprogramming the subconscious mind, we have to talk a little bit about your brain's chemistry. Because every thought that you have creates a chemical reaction in your body. Your body responds to that chemical by making adjustments within your physical body. This is called hormones. Hormones are basically chemicals that are messengers. And they tell your body that you're afraid. They tell your body that you're in danger. They tell your body that you're in relaxation. And then your body responds on a physical level to prepare you for those things. So if you have the thought, and this is all subconscious, not conscious, oh, I'm really scared of that noise that I just heard, then your body is going to send a message and you're going to produce adrenaline because you're afraid and your body wants you to run away from whatever noise that might be because you don't know what it is. So the brain is in constant communication with the body at all times. And this is part of the function of the subconscious. And so we are in this loop as humans. We are in this loop of feeling and thinking, feeling and thinking. When we have a thought, it creates a feeling. When we have a feeling, it creates a thought, and it just goes back and forth, and then our body is responding on a physiological level. So then when we have repetitive thoughts and repetitive feelings, then our body starts to recognize those as patterns. And then as soon as those are patterns that our body recognizes, remember, our brain and our body like what is known. And that's just a survival technique. It means that when you're learning something, it gets easier and easier the more you do it. The same is true with your emotional reactions and your thoughts. The more you think something, the more you think it. The more you feel something, or the more you have that emotional reaction to a certain thing, the more you're going to have that emotional reaction. And the quicker you're going to have that emotional reaction because the body is getting used to it. The brain knows that reaction. It's a comfortable pathway. So the more you repeat yourself in those thinking and feeling loops, the more it creates those pathways in your brain. And then this is what becomes your personality. I'm going to say that again. This is what becomes your personality. your patterns become your personality. So it's why maybe you didn't used to be one way and now you are. I actually really struggled with this a lot because when I was younger, I used to feel really confident. Confidence was not an issue for me. And then somewhere through my college years and my first couple of years in LA, I started to have this pattern of fear and insecurity that I hadn't had before. And I think it was just a new environment and seeing other people that were also talented and being afraid that I wasn't enough. And that pattern and that loop of thinking and feeling like I wasn't enough created a pattern that my brain started to recognize. And then eventually I adopted it as part of my personality to the point where then I was looking at myself going, you're not really an insecure person. You've never been an insecure person, but now you are. Why is that? I was so confused and also kind of hopeless because of it, because I didn't know how I got there and I didn't know why all of a sudden this was part of my personality and I didn't seem to be able to just think my way out of it. I couldn't just get rid of it by wanting to get rid of it. It just was there. It was in my brain. And that happens with a lot of people, and that happens with a lot of different things. Maybe you develop a fear about something or a phobia of something that you never had when you were younger. Or maybe you develop some rage or some anger that you didn't have when you were younger. And all of that is just part of your personality that has been developed by these thinking and feeling loops on repeat. And again, all of that is unconscious. Our entire personality is unconscious for the most part until you really start to work with it and start to have awareness of different things. There is a quote that people love that is, neurons that fire together wire together, which is a phrase that means when you repeatedly do something over and over, eventually those neurons start to merge. So your neurons transmit information between each other. This happens through chemical and electrical signals in your brain. When you talk about wiring your brain, this is basically making those pathways that jump from one neuron to another, making it shorter and shorter until the pathway is so easy for your brain, so connected that it's the quickest, most efficient jump. So this is why, as you're learning something, when you repeat it, your brain will get better and better at doing that thing because the pathway from one neuron to another is getting shorter and shorter. And then eventually your brain is going to choose that pathway over other pathways because it's more defined, it's easier. So when we're talking about rewiring the brain, it can be difficult at first because we want to create new pathways. It's like learning something all over again. It's like learning to walk all over again. But especially when we're talking about emotional reactions and new thought patterns, that can be really challenging because it's not like we're introducing something new to our brain in terms of an activity or a habit. We're actually trying to alter a path that already exists. So this can be really, really challenging at first. And this is where the power of belief comes in. Because you don't want to allow something into your subconscious mind that is going to create a pathway or strengthen a pathway that you're trying to get rid of. Now, the subconscious mind is programmed by having a thought and an emotion together at the same time. That is what gives it the strength to start to create those pathways. So when we have an emotion and a thought together, and especially when we have it in repetition, we start to create these new pathways in our brain. And this is also the power of your self-talk. I like to consider your conscious mind as like the watchman to make sure to filter your thoughts. Your initial response to an event, a trauma, or even something someone says to you that kind of hurts your feelings or something like that is going to be an emotional response. And when you have that emotional response and you accept that thought that comes through, it's going to start to create those pathways. So for instance, say someone said to you like, you're not good at singing. the first time that happened, maybe you were pretty young and you were singing for like a church program or school program or something. And someone said to you, even if it was another kid, you're not very good at singing. And you had just given this, what you thought was a fantastic, beautiful performance. And someone said that to you and it made you feel all sorts of ways. Like it made you feel really sad. It made you feel really angry and embarrassed. So you have this intense emotional reaction. If you accept that thought into your mind, along with that intense emotional reaction, it starts to create that pathway and it starts to program your mind. So say that happened when you were young and you had that intense feeling and you accepted what that person said as your own belief. You accepted the thought, oh, I must not be very good at singing. Then maybe several years later, you were singing happy birthday to someone. And again, someone said, you're not very good at singing, or just made some comment about your voice. You already have that initial thought seed in there, and then accepting that again is going to reinforce that thought even more. So the more and more you accept that thought as truth, along with an emotion of embarrassment or self-hatred or sadness or guilt or shame or any of that, the stronger that belief is going to get. So this is why it's so important, especially as an adult and especially as you're working through some of this, to notice when people are saying things to you that you don't believe are true or you don't want to believe are true, because you are the one who allows your mind to accept those thoughts. This also includes yourself. This is the self-talk I'm talking about. You have to notice when over and over you start thinking thoughts about yourself that aren't true, like I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I can't do it, I'm not worth loving, I'm unlovable, I'm too sensitive, I'm too much. Any of those thoughts are holding you back, especially if you're not noticing that you're thinking them. So the first part here is really noticing these thoughts that are coming in and out of your mindscape. Because the worst thing that can happen is those thoughts get implanted and then they get combined with an emotion and then they repeat over and over and over until they're strong and they have roots grown. And the pathway in your brain is so short that it takes your brain no time at all to jump from one place to the other. And you jump to a conclusion based on that thought instead of seeing the truth and believing the truth about yourself and about the world. This is why people say your thoughts are not facts. They're just thoughts. You have to decide if you accept them or not. There's a quote by Aristotle that is, "It is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it." And this is what I think of as being open-minded. When you're able to be the watchman of your thoughts, when you're able to listen to another person's beliefs and their thoughts, or listen to the thoughts that are presented to you and really ponder them and really think about them and look at them from every angle, but not accept it as truth and especially as your own personal truth or a belief unless you want to, then that is having an open mind. And that is what makes you incredibly powerful. That to me is true intelligence. Think about your thoughts as seeds. And your subconscious mind is like fertile ground, fertile soil. And then your emotions are like all of the nutrients, the water, the sunshine, all of that. So when you have a thought and you plant it in that subconscious mind and then you water it over and over again with emotions, whatever emotions they may be, positive or negative, surrounding that thought, it becomes so ingrained in you and so reinforced in your mind until it's part of your personality, until it's fully bloomed, fully developed, and you jump right to that thought, right to that belief. I want to say too that this is not always necessarily a bad thing. Like, this is a good thing. This is how we change too. It's how we adopt new beliefs and new patterns. But first, we have to address all of the ones that we don't want in there, that were put there by someone else, or that we accepted unknowingly. This is also why willpower doesn't often work. Willpower is only accessing your conscious mind, but you have this whole 95% of your brain running on this other program with these reinforced thought and emotion patterns. And as long as those are running, you can try all day to make new choices, but most of the time it's not going to work, or it might work for a little while and then your subconscious is going to start to take over. And your subconscious will do everything to run that programming. This means that it will put out thought frequencies that attract things into your life to fulfill your subconscious programming, even if you're having thoughts in your conscious mind that are different than that. It's so powerful that it will attract experiences, events, all kinds of situations in your life to fulfill the programming. And this includes emotional reactions. And this is what I've talked about before, which is that emotional addiction. When your body, your subconscious mind and your body are used to fulfilling that physiological response, that hormonal response that comes from having an emotion and a thought, your body's going to crave that. And your subconscious mind is going to work to fulfill that. So if you're used to responding in anger or you're used to responding in sadness, your body is going to attract situations and experiences and look for situations and experiences that will fulfill that need of getting angry, of getting sad, whatever it is. And the reason your subconscious wants to attract the same experiences is because it knows them. If it's familiar, it means you've already survived it once before. And your subconscious, its goal is just to keep you alive. So if you've already survived something, it's going to just say, okay, well, I guess we can handle that thing. Let's just keep doing more of that rather than something new, which is why, again, changing habits, especially through your willpower, is so difficult. So now the question is, how do we actually rewire the brain? The first thing to know about this is your body wants to heal. Your body wants to be the most optimal version of itself. Even with this programming, even with all of this that's back there, that's your body keeping you safe, trying to keep you safe. It's your body responding to what it knows. It's your body wanting to heal you. So it's important to remember that as you're moving forward, because I think sometimes there's this tendency to think, oh, like my subconscious is like against me, or like, oh, my programming sucks so bad, so I have to like fight with my subconscious or my body to try to do the right thing. And that's, again, that like feeling of willpower, that feeling of like, oh, I've got to fight my body. No. Your body wants to heal. It wants to help you. It wants to be the best version of itself. It just doesn't have the right programming. So we just have to train it. We just have to reprogram it. We're basically giving your subconscious a brand new blueprint to work from. Because again, you will act out of what your subconscious mind believes to be true, whether it's actually true or not. If it believes it's true, then that's what you're going to act out of. That's what's going to be on autopilot all the time, 95% of the time. What it believes is true. What you believe is true deep down. So when you're introducing a new thought pattern, your subconscious mind will only work toward it if it believes it's true. A lot of times when we try to introduce new thoughts, we know we're bullshitting ourselves, and our subconscious mind knows that. It will only be effective if you really believe it. When your subconscious mind accepts this idea as true, then it'll start to execute the same way it already executes the program that's happening. It'll start to attract experiences that prove that thing to be truer and truer. So it's important to know, first of all, what kind of things exist in your mind already that you've taken on as your own truth, but maybe aren't true. This is a place where you might want to journal. This week in the membership, I'm going to put out a PDF, a downloadable PDF that is going to help you to journal about some of this. It'll have all of these prompts for you so you can really get in deep with your subconscious and see what is there for the awareness aspect of all of this. Because before you change anything, you have to know what exists there and you have to accept that it's there. So what are the thoughts? What are the things that people have said that you have taken on as your own truth from a young age, now, What are the things that you have heard that you've decided to adopt as your own truth? And this includes everything: belief about yourself, belief about your life, belief about God, belief about your experience as a human on earth, all of it. What do you believe that you didn't actually put there? So that's the first step, is recognizing that. And throughout this process, it's really important to stay present, because you can't change the past and you cannot change the future. As much as we think about the future and we think about the what ifs and we fear it and we worry about it and we're excited about it, that's still in the future, and the future will always be in the future. The only thing you can do is change in the present moment, your present self. So it's important when you find out what those thoughts are that you have accepted as true. Maybe the thought is, I'm not good enough. The next important thing is to be as present as you can, so that when that thought crosses your mind and you recognize it, I'm not good enough, you can have a different reaction, a different choice. But if you're always living in the past or in the future and you're not present in the moment, you're not going to choose something different and you're not going to think something different, because you're not even going to notice that you've had that thought. When you notice that you've had that thought, you have the ability to change it and to shift it in the moment. And this is, again, developing that conscious side of you, developing that sense of presence. I think here it's also important to really release any expectations that you have about this experience and this process, and specifically releasing attachment to how all of this is going to unravel and how it's going to unfold, and also how the future is going to unfold. We can talk about manifestation and we can talk about dreams and, all of that exciting stuff for the future after we start to unravel this programming. So for now, let's just focus on being aware, being present, and noticing these thoughts that cross your mind. All the time, probably. More than you think, I bet. Anytime you are healing, anytime you want to change anything, there are 4 aspects to that healing. The first is a belief that you can change, a belief that you can do something. Nothing happens without belief. The second is intention. It's the want, the willingness to change. The third is attention, putting your focus on something and having awareness about it. Having awareness that these thoughts are crossing your mind on a regular basis. And also the acceptance of what is, and that's that present moment part. This is the acceptance of who you are currently. This is your current personality. This is exactly where you are in this moment in time. If you're delusional about where you are and you're not willing to accept the present reality, then you're never going to be able to change. So those 4 things are what you need here, what we all need for any kind of healing: belief, intention, attention, and acceptance. The other really vital thing to this process of changing your subconscious thoughts is to have love and gratitude for yourself and for where you are. The fact that you're even noticing this, the fact that you want to change, all of that is so important, because this process is not easy. It's really, really difficult, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it. Most people don't want to do it because it takes so much presence and thought and work and love for yourself. So if you can hold love and gratitude throughout the process, no matter where you are, it's going to change everything. It really is. All right, so when we are rewiring this, there are some hacks to the subconscious mind. There are some hacks that are going to help you get in that present moment, that are going to help you recognize those thoughts and to start to move them. One of them is to become childlike. When you are a child, you accept new things, you're excited about new things, you're open, you're vulnerable with yourself and with others. you're full of just a love of life, a love for yourself, and you have a sense of flow and a sense of play about you. Sometimes healing work can get in the realm of like being really, really serious all the time. And there needs to be some sort of back and forth and some sort of balance with play and with pleasure. So the more you can embrace some of those childlike qualities and just remind yourself it doesn't have to be so serious. Everything's okay. It doesn't really matter. It matters, but it doesn't, you know? As much as you can hold that within yourself, it's only going to push you forward and expand your healing. The other thing to know in terms of hacking the subconscious is that your subconscious mind can't judge or reason. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Your subconscious mind cannot judge or reason, which is why if your conscious mind that does judge and does reason gives your subconscious mind a thought as truth, it accepts it because it doesn't judge or reason. It doesn't make those kind of distinctions. So this is the science behind why affirmations and visualization work to reprogram your subconscious. When you're visualizing something, your subconscious mind doesn't know it's not happening. It doesn't know that it's not real. If you're visualizing something and you're feeling the emotion of it and you're having the thought about it and you're seeing it, then that's true to your subconscious. If you are saying an affirmation and you feel it as true and you think it is true, then it's true to your subconscious. And the crazy thing about all of this work is that it literally takes about 28 days to reprogram your subconscious mind. That's it. I mean, you've programmed the mind that you have, the personality that you have over the last however many years old you are. Years and years of your life have programmed your personality and what you do on a daily basis and how you react and how you show up in the world. But you can reprogram that within 28 days using belief, intention, attention, and acceptance. Recognizing what thoughts you have that you've taken on as your truth, staying present to change them. Now, this does not happen overnight, you know? It's a lot of repetition, it's a lot of discipline, and that creates lasting change. But in the grand scheme of things, 28 days is not very long. So why not try it? I bet some of you have tried some affirmations or some visualization or some manifestation techniques, or I bet a lot of you have tried willpower and just changing your habits, and I bet it hasn't worked. Most likely, that's because you were not employing belief, intention, attention, or acceptance. Well, if you were using your willpower, I mean, you were just using your willpower and not even working with your subconscious. But if you were with affirmations or visualization or any of that, either you didn't do it long enough, or you didn't have a belief that it would work, or the focus, or the attention, the want, the need to change, or the acceptance for what is. One more reason that I think people have trouble and they don't get results is that they're employing too much effort. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Healing in every form is balance. And it's finding that sweet spot. It's finding that balance in between caring, but not giving so much effort that it takes over your entire life and you get really serious about it. We got to have the flow and the childlikeness and the play as well to make it work. Now, there are countless ways you can start to change these thoughts and give yourself a new thought, but I'm going to tell you right now, meditation is the fastest one. I know I've said that before too, but it is. It's just the fastest. In meditation, you can use visualization, you can use affirmations, and it will change you. Journaling is great too. Consistent self-care, also important. Paying attention to that self-talk. But again, you're going to get better at noticing those things, at being present, the more that you meditate. So meditating really goes hand in hand with any of this subconscious change. If you want to read more about this, or you want to dig deeper into why all of this works, and you want some more science behind it than what I've given you today, check out Bruce Lipton's The Biology of Belief. He's a scientist that talks a lot about why all of this works. Check out Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. If you want more specific information on the subconscious mind especially, this is kind of an old book, but check out Joseph Murphy, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Fantastic book. And then I'm also planning on doing a whole series soon at some point on the energetics behind all of this and the physics of energy and belief and why energy healing works. But if you are interested in that and you want to read for yourself some of the science behind energy and belief, check out Eileen McCusick's Electric Body, Electric Health. Check out Deepak Chopra's Quantum Healing or Michael Talbot's The Holographic Universe. All of those go into more of the science behind belief and energy and why all of this works. So if your subconscious mind is holding you back, if you know you have some programs in there, you have some parts of your personality in there that aren't supposed to be there, or you don't want them there, and they were not put there by you, then this is the process you need to do. Please download the PDF that I'm going to put in the membership, and I'm going to give you a meditation to go along with it as well. You could literally do this meditation every day for 28 days, and I promise you things will change. As long as you do this work on the PDF and you really get in there and you really are honest with yourself and call yourself out a little bit on the things that are true and allow yourself to recognize those things and start to notice them in your everyday life. When you do that, or if you do Joe Dispenza's meditation every day for 28 days, I promise you'll be a new person. I've seen it over and over again, and I know you can do it too. I know you can. The subconscious is the absolute key to change. When you can finally change your brain's response to your life, you change your life. Don't forget, your belief and your intention to change really matter in all of this. There might be days where you have doubt, self-doubt, where you encounter some resistance, where you're struggling to stay motivated. On those days, do this with a friend or a partner, or journal about why you want to change. What are the benefits? What are you going to get out of this? Make it a habit. Put it into your self-care routine. And remember that your belief and your intention are so important to this change. I think that's all I have to say about it. If you want more help with this, please reach out to me. I am always here. I've got a lot of different options for one-on-one help, so let me know if that's something that you're interested in or something that you think you need. If that's not for you, but you still want to be a part of this community and you still want help and you still want to download this PDF and this meditation, join the membership. It's $7.77 a month. That's way cheaper than this meditation and this PDF should be, and probably won't be for long. So join the membership and just get with some other people who are going through this process too. I'm so excited to see who you are on the other side of all of this. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next week.